Hello everyone, this week we will learn how to paint this moody landscape using watercolors. Welcome to my home studio where I share my passion for watercolor paintings. My name is Dinesh. Today we will capture the mood and atmosphere using washes, textures and some cool techniques. I will share some tips on composition and how to simplify our reference and glazing techniques to achieve the right values to get a realistic look. Before we dive in, be sure to hit the subscribe button to become a part of our ever-growing community. Now without further ado, let's get started everyone. Before I start any painting, I usually analyze my reference. That's the other way of thinking about what I'm going to do. So what I did is there's a lot of space which is in the foreground, so I cropped it and you will see in the sketch when we do it. And I highly recommend before you're doing any painting or drawing, I highly recommend this process because it helps us to create an impactful story to a viewer to see. As for the supply goes, I'm using Boang watercolor rough surface, 300 GSM cotton paper. And for the supply goes, for the paints, I'm using Winsor Newton professional watercolor paints. Being said that, you can use any watercolor paper and paints you want, but I highly recommend using 300 GSM because it accepts the paint really well on the paper. You could see in the reference that there is a lot of foreground space. So what I did is I kind of cropped it in a way that I could see more of the people walking than the midground, the background. So whenever you draw, the other way to simplify is thinking everything in foreground, midground, and background. So that's really important. So that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to use the boardwalks as a lead-in, and I'm going to use those houses as the midground, and I'll just add a couple of people. So when I draw, I also try to split my like watercolor paper like 1/3. So I try to have all the objects not to split in half. So that's a good way of creating composition because anything that's symmetrical is boring. So let's apply the first wash. So this wash is kind of like a staining wash I do. So I'm using a lot of blue, and because that's what I'm seeing, because it's a really cool, foggy atmosphere in the reference. So this picture was taken in Perse Gaspé in Quebec, and we stayed here and there was a beach nearby. It was really amazing. But if you get a chance, go and check it out. I highly recommend if you come to Canada or if you go to Quebec. Even I'm from Ontario. Even if you're there, go and check it out. So I'm just applying the washes on the roof. So this wash is kind of like thinking where everything goes, and you're just like creating the washes based on the color you're seeing from your reference. The other term people usually use in watercolor is they call it staining the washes. So again, like you're just staining the paper based on the color you are seeing from your reference. That's what I'm exactly doing. So I don't talk about that colors that much because people see colors way differently from other people. So I see colors differently and other person colors differently. So that's what I tell my students too. Whenever I teach a class, I tell them that don't worry about the colors because there is not like one way we can learn colors is just by doing it. So that's how we do it. So I'm applying the second wash. I'm bringing down the cloud using a little bit of warmth, and I'm using yellow ochre and a little bit of blue in it, and you can see I also mix some colors in it. So since the paper is wet, I'm using that wedge as like this blurry edge on the left hand side because the clouds are hovering over those mountains there, but whereas on the right hand side it kind of have really nice harsh edges. So that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm also splattering some water using my watercolor brush just to get some textures from it. So it gives like a little bit of this texture. So since I want to preserve that hard edge, so now I'm adding the background using a bluish color. So I'll be using Cobalt Blue, a little bit of white paint in it. And you can see that as soon as we did, the background's kind of like went far away from it. So it's kind of like creating a background, and there's also like a depth we create from the background under the background as well. And when I squint my eyes, I wasn't happy with the value, so I'm trying to do that. I also took some tissue paper to get rid of this clouds which is on top of that background. And I also want to get this crisp edges, so I took off the paint and I able to create these edges. So sometimes when I paint, I always think about if the edges are hard or soft. just by matching the edges hard and soft, you can create beautiful paintings, and it will give more realism and subtleties. So now I'm doing the second wash. So this wash is kind of like a more of checking the value, and some of the washes we haven't painted before, so those are the stuff. So first I'm focusing on the roof, which is like close to the front ground building, and I'm also like painting the blue color which is in the background as well. So you can see that most of the colors I'm putting, it's not vibrant because since it's a overcast, so we won't see that much color vibrant in an overcast because it looks dull. But yet the color look the reference looks dull, but I'm trying to introduce a little bit of colors because when you see a dull painting, not that many people like it unless it's a rainy painting and there's a lot of reflections, and you can show the techniques better. But this one is kind of like want to show the overcast, the moody landscape, and we also want to put a little bit of color. So that's what we're trying to do. So when you do it, don't be like scared. Even if you make your color vibrant, that's fine, but make sure you match the value. So that's a really important. Whenever I paint, the one thing I keep in mind is matching the value. So even the colors are different, I don't care, but when I do it, I make sure that I match the value. So you can see that the first wash I applied for the stones, the rocks, it's kind of like the light I'm painting, the light wash. So now I'm doing the second wash. It's kind of like the shadow pass. So we can also add another darker value on top of it, and that's what I'm doing now. And you can see the darker value, and this will enhance realism. So there's a shadow part, and there's also anchors the rocks on the ground as well. The third value, the darker value, which we are applying. So this is other things, like I had struggled with painting rocks or cliffs or anything like that in the beginning when I started with the watercolors. So what I started doing is simplified it, and I also don't paint as it is. I will see a pattern of it, how the shape looks like, and I'll copy it, and that's it. So that helped me everything to make it easier. You don't have to paint things as it is unless you are painting a realistic painter and you do hyperrealism, then it's fine. But if you're not a hyperrealistic painter, and I feel like I'm impressionist because I feel like I want to capture the mood, I want to capture the scene, as close as possible. And when you look this painting from far, it gives that photographic quality because we capture the value and we capture the essence from the scene as well. So now I'm focusing on the house, which is in the midground, and you can see that I'm also using white paint. I'm using Chinese white, and don't be scared using. I was scared to use white paint when I started painting in watercolors, but now like I kind of use it because in order to get a value a little bit lighter, you can use white paint, so it's okay to mix it, but you have to have the transparency because we can't use watercolor as opaque medium. And a lot of my students and a lot of beginner watercolorists, I see they use the medium as an opaque medium, and it's a wrong way to use it. And if you learn how to control your transparency and how to layer it, and watercolor will be the best medium and the fastest medium you can ever paint with. And watercolor is also one of the best medium to capture lighting and shadows. So that's why I really liked watercolor. So once I paint it, I can't even go back to any opaque medium. So now I'm focusing on the shadow side of the roof inside, and you can see that the shadow contrast on these roofs are really subtle. It's kind of like a gradient happening from the top to the bottom. Because again, because it's overcast and we won't see that much contrast in the shadows. Whereas if you see in a sunny scene, you will see, or like something which is close to a light, you will have a sharp contrast. But in order to convey a mood, this hazy mood, you should have a lot of these softer edges in your painting. But whereas for the roofs, as I said, I always think about is my edges are soft or harsh or hard. So if you see a hard edge, just copy that edge, and if you see a soft edge, just copy that. So that's an easy way to simplify stuff in order to paint. When it comes to background building, I keep it really subtle, not add that many details. I learned this from looking at a lot of master paintings. Like if you see a lot of master paintings, they will put a lot of details in the foreground and the midground. Unless where's the focal point, they will just like put as much of the details they want in the focal point. but if you see, as it resides to the background, it's get lesser and lesser and lesser details, because they know that when people are watching from far, the painting should work, and it works amazing. And in a way that we are creating illusions, that we're just making illusions and faking it, and that's what we're trying to do. And I'm trying to bring back some of the white strips on the roofs. There's a lot of this white trims in Quebec, in Bertha Gaspé especially. So now let's focus on the foreground. For the foreground, I'm using a little bit of this grayish color, and for the this thing which is close to me, I'm just using burnt sienna and a little bit of yellow ochre in it, because things which are closer, I try to create like a really good vibrancy. Again, things which are warmer comes close to us, which are cooler goes in distance. And I also use some clean water to put some lines, because I want to create the texture of the boardwalk on top of it. And this boardwalk has also this darker value at the back, so I'm also trying to add it. I'm also adding a couple of figures just to show the scale of the painting. And it also enhances this people there. It kind of creates this human element in our painting as well. And most of the painting, if I don't add the figure, I feel like people can't see the scale. As soon as if we add a figure, and it will just create this really nice scale for us. And now I'm adding this tertiary details, because we kind of finished the first wash, second wash, and like the darker value on top of it. So these are the things I usually add at the end. And you can also see that the lamp, which is also darker value, a black one, so I'm kind of adding that as well. I might add another one later, just to create a little bit of this foreground element, so which takes us into the painting. And there's also this people can sit, so I'm also adding that as well. There's like the thing which hold on to it, so I'm just kind of adding it. So I'm also adding a couple of the shadows for the figures, and I'm just checking the value for it. I'm kind of adding it as well. So when I paint, I usually squint my eyes, and that will give the value for it. There's one more thing about photos, painting from photos, is the values look a little bit darker compared to what we see in reality. So be careful with it. And I wish I can go and paint every day, but sometimes I have a life, so sometimes I learn from my photos. Then when I go out and paint, it's easier for me to understand. And the other one I'm doing now is, you can see that I'm glazing over the background, because when I squint my eyes, it got really dull, so I'm just like glazing over again. And I'm trying to put some green and a little bit of blue in it, just to create this hazy distance as well. And you can see that I'm also glazing over the sand, the rocks, which is kind of sitting on the beach next to it. And there's also this algae, which is kind of like algae, or I don't know what it's called. It kind of like accumulates in the shore, and it kind of looks like this reddish tone, and which is also really nice to create this really nice colors for our painting as well. Again, when I squint my eyes, the cloud, which kind of lacked a value as well, so I'm trying to increasing the value on the cloud as well. So don't be scared if your value is not aligning, or if it's lighter, go and glaze over it again, that's fine. So when I started with watercolors, I used to be scared to go and fix stuff, going glazing over and creating a value. It's okay to do it, because you have to match the reference. That's the matching the value, and matching the values with the subtleties, that will enhance realism in our painting. So now I'm adding the white paint. This is some of the stuff I bring back the eyelets, and I'm using Chinese white out of the tube with no water in it, because that gives this opaque look. And you can also bring some of the things. You can see that as soon as we add those poles, the white paint on it, so you can see that there's kind of like this poles came in front of this building as well. So that's the other way also creating, pushing things back and forth just by using white paint. Again, when I use it sparingly. I don't like to overdo it, because a lot of my students, as soon as I show this a technique of using white paint to bring back the eyelets, they go and add eyelets everywhere. Again, it's all about capturing the mood of the painting and matching the values, and also thinking about when we apply a color, does it look vibrant or does it look as close to our reference. That's what's really important when you paint a moody landscape, and that's how I paint. And this is not the only way to paint a moody landscape, and this is how I use my layering to create this moody atmosphere and match the value as well. Again, use this technique and what I showed today, and try to implement in one of your moody landscape. You can use my reference or you can use your own reference. And if you think that the reference is intimidating, try to paint like, maybe like close up of this house with the background in it. And don't try to do the entire painting. Just apply the techniques and learn it, then you can approach a bigger painting as well. And let's see what you can come up with. Thank you once again for watching this painting tutorial. Please feel free to share your thoughts on the video in the comment section below. If you have any other watercolor related topics you would like me to cover, reach out to me at watercolorimpressions@gmail.com or leave a comment down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and be sure to hit the subscribe button to become a part of our learning community. By subscribing, you will receive weekly upload notifications and stay updated on our channel, and share with your fellow artists, friends and family. And good luck with your painting, folks.